All right, all right. Guys, excited about this one. One of my early mentors in the business, Jeff Adler, is here with us today. And I got to be honest with you, super excited, a little nervous to interview, one of the top guys in the business who really launched me in my long-term care field. And I'm excited to have this conversation today. Jeff, how you doing?
I am doing great, Colin. How are you?
Awesome. So
I think, looks like you're ready for Halloween behind you there.
yeah, we got the Halloween set up. We're ready to go with the Halloween. So Jeff, I never asked any of these questions when you were helping me out back in the day, but where were you born? Tell me a little bit about your early years. Did you play any sports? Just so people can get a chance to get to know you a little bit, outside of your business profession.
Yeah, no problem. Who we are today is set up a lot as we grow up and the things we learn when we're young. I was born in San Diego
Oh,
and
awesome.
lived in San Diego till I was about 12, 13 years old. My dad was a pharmacist, so in San Diego, we owned during those years three different pharmacies: Ocean Beach, Claremont, and University City. And right around age 12, we really hit a financial hardship. We pretty much lost everything. We didn't file a bankruptcy because my dad had pride and he didn't want to do that to any creditors. But we were pretty broke at that point in time. I remember my dad bought a $350 Ford Falcon. My mother had a $750 Ford Maverick, and he went to work for Save On and Longs and hated working for other people. So a couple of years later, he started looking for another pharmacy to buy, and couldn't find anything in San Diego. So we came up to Tustin, Los Angeles, and we wound up buying a small store in a city called Sunland, Tahunga, up in the northern San Fernando Valley. And it was a small store, and so that was from age 13 to about age 18. And then for some crazy reason, I was almost an adult, right, getting out of high school, and we moved that store up the street, and we went into a real big store, like 8,000 square feet, like a CVS type store.
Wow.
And we spent 21 years there and learned a lot. Learned a lot about medical, aging, healthcare, and to be successful, because right across the street we had a Save On, we had a Thrifties down the street, we had a Vons down the street. I learned you have to be different. You have to offer something that other people aren't doing, whether it's concierge service or product or and one of our niches was we started servicing nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And then we were the only drugstore that was really licensed to offer Medicare supplies like diabetic supplies, walkers, wheelchairs, scooters, hospital beds, and things like that. And
So real
that's,
quick, just
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. So for the people watching, okay, Jeff he's been a number one producer for many years, and the reality is, Jeff, you don't need to work anymore. I mean, let's be honest, right? You don't need to work anymore. Um, and nowadays, you you just want to help people, right? Is that a fair statement?
I, I want to I want to help as many people as I can because I went through it with my folks, which
Mhm.
I'll talk about. But also, I have a team of agents,
Correct.
and
So that's where I was going with this. So where I'm going with
right,
this is you're hiring, correct? So if there's people out there that are looking for a tremendous opportunity, they should reach out to you. Is that a fair statement? Because I mean, you've helped multiple agents become very successful, including myself, right?
right.
And you're still doing that, correct?
It's a unique field specializing in long term care. I also do a lot of Medicare, which we may talk about later too. It's not an easy industry because long term care is not an automatic insurance. It's the greatest risk we face statistically if you look at it,
Yep.
but it's also not an automatic insurance. And so it's a difficult field, but yeah, we hire and we have a very unique operation. So not only are we trying to help a lot of people, families, protect legacies, but we're also trying to build careers and help people build careers where they can go out and help people. They're rewarded, the clients are rewarded down the road, and everybody's making a difference in lives.
So sorry to jump ahead there. So real quick, finish your family story. Now you're into Hunga. I knew that you were in the pharmacy business, right? Because that was sort of, people talked about that you were a pharmacist prior to coming into the industry, which, um, I mean, for me, this is just me learning from you sitting on the sidelines. It's not like being a pharmacist, you come from a sales background, you know, um, but somehow you transitioned into, I mean, we're in the sales business, correct? And then you've just become, very substantial. So walk us a little bit through that, how were working, you're into Hunga, and then when did you come into long-term care sales? Let's talk about that transition. And then of course, you offer full financial planning from A to Z if anyone's listening here and they need help with retirement planning and things of that nature. But let's continue back there and then how that transition happened.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll kind of abbreviate it, but so I'm not a pharmacist, right? I went to UCLA. I
Okay.
was going to be a pharmacist, but in the reality is I've been doing it my whole life. We owned that pharmacy till I was 40 years old. I was born in a pharmacy, and I turned out I didn't want to do that the rest of my career. I'd be doing it, teenager and all through college and everything else. So I knew it wasn't going to be my future, especially when my father was ready to retire. And of course, we don't own the real estate and leases run out and you have to kind of move on. So I kind of built a career initially about health insurance, around health insurance pre-Obamacare. Same thing, rates get
So hey,
expensive.
real
Rates,
quick, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt. So
yeah.
for people listening, pre-Obamacare, um, I purchased my health insurance from Jeff Adler, and I literally had the best policy uh, to this day. Like I unfortunately I wasn't able to keep that policy. Are you still in the health insurance industry, Jeff?
Yeah, but it's changed a lot. It's
It's
changed a lot. So pre-Obamacare, you had medical underwriting, and people would have trouble getting coverage. I even had an 18-year-old call me up and said, "Hey, I got your name from somebody. I've been turned down for health insurance. I need help." And I went over to the house and sat with the parents. The female was like 18 years old, and the reason she was turned down for health insurance was she had acne and she had an acne prescription. And back then they would turn you down because you had a prescription and you had a pre-existing condition. So Obamacare kind of changed that whole world where there's no more health questions. But like you had any plan you had, they all went away. I lost
I know.
all those
It was
clients
horrible.
because everybody had to start fresh.
So for the people listening, just so you know, I was paying for a whole family what Jeff had set me up with. It was an HSA plan, and it was less than $300. It was the best plan I've ever owned to this date. And actually, Jeff, when we get offline, I need to talk to you a little bit more because, um, what I'm paying now is absolutely astronomical, and I realize the industry has changed. But we, you service Arizona too, right? Or no?
Yeah, yeah, I'm licensed in about 40 states. Not as much, health insurance in Arizona, but around the country, long-term care for sure. Definitely. States are different. States are regulated. Each state has their own exchange type of thing. But what I learned was people need help, and they don't always know where to go. So what happened with health insurance was the amount that like an agent would get paid just crashed down to pennies, literally pennies. I mean, I can see I get paid $1.50 for a case on a monthly basis. I mean, they made it so, you know, difficult and almost not worth your time doing is a real problem. So the people that offer health insurance today, they
It's
have other jobs. I
it's a
mean,
side deal. It's
it,
literally
it,
like you're doing it as a favor for the most.
I bumped into a group and they're in Hollywood. They're actors, but they're not always acting, right? So they work at a
Right.
restaurant, they're a bartender, and now they're trying to offer some health insurance. And it's difficult. And then every year you have
I
to
mean,
kind of renew.
Obamacare basically ruined the health insurance industry from an
But
HSA
it
point.
but it did give people coverage that could no longer get covered. So
That
it
could,
had the pluses, it had the minuses. All the people who knew what they were doing, the older timers, they retired. They got out of that. I'm like, I'm done with this. This isn't what I've been doing. And not only that, but they lost their careers and they lost their books of business, they lost their clients. what I learned was long-term care was an untapped market, right? Health
Yeah.
insurance, hey, you don't have to go out and really sit with somebody for 2 hours why they need health insurance. But
So real quick. So just to
yeah,
get the timeline, you went.
yeah.
You weren't a pharmacist. You grew up in that industry with your folks. You went to college, and you're like, "Hey, I don't want to do this." Then you went into health insurance, and then from health insurance.
While we had the pharmacy,
Oh,
I became licensed.
okay,
And so it really kind of started out in two ways: health insurance and Medicare for those 65 and above, Medicare.
okay,
And nothing better than walking into a pharmacy and being able to get health insurance. Even today, the chains like CVS, they have the Minute Clinic. You can actually see a nurse practitioner and get a cough and cold or a vaccine and get your prescription filled. So we were doing the health insurance. Nowadays, you can go into Walmart and buy a drug plan. So they're kind of doing the same thing that we did.
got it. Interesting. And so, okay, so now you've done this. So now talk about. I want to talk about. So we had Jacob on last week, Jacob Carmazon, and of course, I know you know Jake, and you know everybody in the industry, obviously. Um, he climbed to that number one spot, I think, in 2014. But let's talk about moving into long term care, and then I don't even know. Like you were a number one producer or a top three producer at Genworth, and for the people listening, Genworth Financial, by far the largest long term care insurance provider, uh, hands down. So let's talk about that. So you transition over, you go to Genworth. How long did it take you to become a top producer? And then I want to talk about and and here's the deal. So for the people that are listening, Jeff Adler is the hardest working person in the business. Like if anyone mentions Jeff, I don't care who you talk to, they're just like, look, he outworks everybody. But in addition to outworking everybody, there's more to it than that. It's like, you know, you have a work ethic which is higher than anyone else, but there's also some type of system that you implement which makes you a top producer year after year after year after year. And that's really what I want to share with people. And then also too, any agents that are looking for a great opportunity and they want to learn, okay, how to become successful in this business, this is a guy that you need to go to work for. I mean, that's the bottom line. Like, I mean, if I, you know anyways, so go ahead, take it from there, Jeff. I don't
Well,
want to
so
ramble.
put it this way, let's take LA, right?
Yeah.
I'm in the Ventura County area. So think about LA. You've got 10, 12,000 really good life insurance agents. They know life insurance, whether it's term, index, whatever they're doing, and they're good. There's captive agents, there's independent agents, life insurance. And remember, life insurance, we all know we're going to pass away. So there's different reasons, of course, for life insurance, but it's not a convincing sale in that sense. Long-term care, I would bet there's not more than 50 or 60 really, really good long term care agents in California. Really good agents, really know this stuff inside and out. 50, 60, 70. And I'll tell you what,
And the
just
bulk of
about
them work for you. I
well,
mean,
all of them worked with us at some point in time.
yep.
Many of them are still with us now. We have agents that have still been with us for 25 years. And for those agents who figure it out, it could be the last career they ever have. Does everybody become successful? No, because you can't, it's not like you're an employee and you're in the office 40 hours a week. It's your practice. What we operate is kind of like a franchise, sort of, but I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But the point is, long term care is a unique niche. It's an untapped market. When I started out, the funny thing was when I went to work, I was already selling long term care through the pharmacy and bringing it up to people. And I saw these ads from Genworth or GE at the time. It
Yeah.
might have been American Express at the time. And what you really want to do when you're in sales is see and talk to as many people as you can, help as many people as you can. This is a very passionate business. Okay. And I interviewed and they wouldn't hire me. They wouldn't hire me. I was turned down for coverage, right? You own a pharmacy, you're part time. We really want full time people. And so what we did was we put my wife in there. My wife's an attorney. She really didn't like practicing law. She was younger than I am. I think she might have been in her 20s. And
Yeah.
the idea was, that she'll be the one that goes to work. And if there's nighttime appointments, I can run the appointments. If she's not comfortable, we'll work as a team. And then they hired her. And then when I sold my pharmacy in 1998, it was her birthday. The last day in business was her birthday. She said that was the best birthday present she could ever have, July 1st, 1998. And after that, I pretty much went full time Genworth, and of course became Platinum President's Club. One year was the Grand Slam, and this has not been done before. But we had a platinum office, we had a platinum district, and I was a platinum agent.
Wow.
So I was a platinum agent, platinum district leader inside a platinum office,
So
which is the trio.
so for the people, I mean, think about this. So we are talking to the number one guy, the platinum guy who's done it the whole lot. I mean, everything. And I'm talking, and this is what I was saying with when I was on the phone with Jacob. Like, this is back when long-term care was a huge deal, and you had major players playing in this industry, and you consecutively were just on top, on top, on top, on top. And I can so Jeff, I had the privilege of training with Jeff, and I can remember just working out of the Westlake office, and I would hustle, 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 and make. And I can't tell you how many calls I had the call sheets and just grinding, a few hundred calls a day, a few hundred calls a day, and I got to the point where I had some momentum, and then every week at the sales meeting, you had to call out your numbers, and it was like I did 21,000 in sales for the week or whatever the number was. And I'm top on the board. And I just felt so good. And then here comes Jeff. Jeff comes rolling in. And everyone would be, oh, Jeff, what'd you do?
Uh,
And he'd write his numbers up there on top of the board. And every time you can imagine, as good as you thought your week was, Jeff was always better. I mean, but I
uh,
would just, and it wasn't like, I would have a good week here and there. It was every week. So let's talk about that. And you continue to do it. Like you continue
so
to do
so
it.
let's go back. So it's all about activity. I don't set any goals. Yeah, I made the trips. Genworth took me to China and Australia and Europe. I mean, you get, but those are really for the spouses. Those rewards are really for the spouses, because when you're a top producer in any industry, it takes time, and it takes time away from the family. And really, I don't have goals in that sense. My goal is not to be number one or be on a trip or anything. I mean, it's a nice goal to have, but you know what? I just want to help as many people as I can. It's a passionate business. My
Yeah.
goal is really just to help people. It's really, the reward, I get paid. The reward, you get paid. You get paid. That's your reward in the back end. But really, I get more satisfaction really just helping people, because to be successful, not everybody can. I mean, a lot of it's personality. I always talk in long-term care is not an automatic insurance, right? And we're dealing with marketing. We have over 800 groups around the country that use us for long-term care. Whether it's almost any university like UCLA or USC or Stanford, all across Colorado, Oregon, Washington, wherever state you're in, we have 350 universities.
Wow.
So I'm not a stranger to these people. And COVID really did a number, right? Because COVID, before COVID, we were kitchen table. We were getting leads in LA or wherever you live, San Diego. We have leads in San Diego. You're going to call them. You're going to ask them questions. You're going to prepare. You're going to drive out and see them. And then COVID hit. And like I said, companies didn't know what to do. If you had COVID, we can't take you. We can't offer coverage. We don't know what this is going to be like. So an old dog like me, I'm not that computer literate. So I had to learn how to do a remote. I had to learn how to do e-applications. All the companies had to create the software for e-applications. And then what changed was now we started marketing all over the country, right? You can go, you could be a member of UCLA alumni and you can live in Stockton. And I'm not driving to Stockton, or I'm not, you could be in Utah and went to UCLA. So what it did is it allowed us to reach all these people wherever they live across the country. And so we're licensed in all the different states. And I can be in Colorado on one appointment, Minnesota in the next, and bounce back to Northern California on the next appointment.
So I want people to kind of understand this because you worked back in the day, of course, like a lot of
Old school,
old
old school.
school, kneecap to kneecap, right? So when I was trained, we were trained on to drive the car into the driveway, right? Get out of the vehicle, go into the house, an in-person visit. And you did this for umpteen years.
20 years probably.
Correct. Correct. 20 years. And I mean, if you think like so to the people that are listening here, I mean, think about this in Los Angeles. So if you're working in Los Angeles 10 years ago, right, but pre-COVID, and you had a meeting in Long Beach, and then you had a meeting in Santa Barbara, and then you had to go to, you know, Reseda. I mean, think about how hard agents had to work just with the driving component, right? I mean, um,
Oh, imagine driving 2 hours and then they port you if they're not
and they,
there,
yeah. So
right?
porching is
Or
a
they
term where they don't answer.
so
Yeah.
we would think it through. So we would say, okay, I need 3 hours in between appointments,
Correct.
and I have a 10 o'clock. So we don't set one, and you always set the middle of the day first, 1 o'clock, because
Yep.
then you can go earlier and we can go later. You
Hmm.
don't want to do a 10 o'clock 2 hours away and then not have another one till 5 o'clock. You're going to have 4 to 5 hours break time. So you start in the middle and then you book another appointment before that one or another one after that one. Of course, then it gets dark at 5 o'clock in the winter. It's pouring rain. You're sitting on a doorstep getting drenched. I didn't have a computer. Didn't use computers back then. We had
Oh,
rate
yeah.
guides and
You had rate guides
calculators
and
and a yellow
paperwork and
pad,
handwrite everything.
right? And
You
then
you bought a new vehicle. You literally
every three
correct. It
years,
just was worn out. It was just
right? And then the policy, listen to this, the policy would get approved. Then they'd mail you the policy. So you have to take it out to them to deliver it. So
yep.
it's another, you know, quarter of a day doing that. And we did it. And you know what? I mean, I ran appointments from LA to San Diego, turn around from San Diego and drive all the way back.
Yeah.
I ran I
Never.
ran four appointments to Palm Springs, different times, but I didn't sell either of the four. And I'm like, I'm not going to Palm Springs anymore. It was a referral, right?
Yeah.
And the last time I went, I stopped at the casino on the way back and I played blackjack, won a few $100, but I'm like, I'm not driving 2 to 3 hours. That's
Yeah.
just not, especially when you don't have to,
Well,
right?
and then and think about this. So this is an interesting deal because you run one of these appointments. So for example, we lived in Ventura, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, or for people listening. And let's say that you go to Long Beach and you write up a deal and you miss a signature, right? So you come back, you miss a signature. I mean, you have to physically get in that car and drive all the way back to get a
If
signature.
you
And,
if you
and
miss a signature once, you'll never miss a signature again. Just
well,
remember that, right?
Well, here's the thing. So the funny thing for me is that I would miss signatures. So some of the carrier, one of the main carriers that I worked with, I brought DocuSign to the carrier because I'm like, look, we can't like living in Los Angeles, you know, and you miss the signature, and I got to go to Long Beach, which is 50 miles away with traffic is 3 hours. So there was an interesting dynamic for me bringing, DocuSign to a carrier. This is all pre-COVID, and I was able to do this. And the reason I was able to do all this stuff is because I hated traffic. I couldn't handle traffic. Couldn't handle Los Angeles, and so at least for me, when COVID hit, I was already going remote because of how bad traffic was in Los Angeles. And people don't even know, like, unless you live in Los Angeles, no one has an idea how bad traffic.
Yeah.
Like, I would fly to Atlanta, and I'd land in Atlanta, and I'd get picked up from agents, or an agent in particular, and they're like, hey, we got to go to this meeting, and they're like, hey, it's rush hour, it's 5 o'clock, and they would just be, oh, traffic is horrible. We get on the on ramp, and I'm not kidding you, Jeff. It took 5 minutes to get on the on ramp, and then we were going 40 miles an hour. I'm like, dude, this is not traffic. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
unless you've been on the 405. in in between the 101 and LAX, you have no clue what real traffic is. And so for the people listening, I mean, so Jeff for 20 years had to drive in this traffic on a daily basis to write these deals. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, nowadays, are you still doing face to face, or is it all internet web meeting? And the reason I'm saying this is for, you know, the people that are out there that are like, hey, I want to get into this industry. Um, you know, how much easier is it today? You know, sitting here doing
It's
what
a lot.
we're doing
It's a lot. It's a lot easier today. So two things. One is, you always, like in our office, we have great agents, we have good agents, and we have agents, right?
now. Yeah,
And good agents, they've been around a long time. They run a lot of appointments. They're good. They know their stuff, and they're good agents, but they don't necessarily become great agents. What's the difference between a great agent and a good agent? A great agent, you just do everything you can to make the client happy. You put in the extra effort. So when I used to drive around, they're like, wow, how do you do it? It's like, I don't dwell on the traffic. I mean, you got to do it, you get in the car and you do it, right?
yeah.
What would make the most sense, which I never did, was to have a driver. Because if I'm in traffic for 2, 3 hours, I could be
Then
in
you
the
can
back,
work.
I could be dialing, I could be resting, I could be having lunch. I mean, it's like, and that's how people do it in like New York and other places. I never did it that way. Um, but
That's a great idea. I mean, to be honest, if you had to do that, yeah,
yeah, I mean that's really almost the way to kind of do. Of course, you have self-driving cars coming, so who knows what that's going to be. But a great agent, it just goes far above and beyond. Always doing that extra step. So like I'll give you a quick example. So first of all, being available for people, right? It's not like I'm working with doctors. I mean, we have 800 groups. We have engineers. We have all the bar associations. We have all the medical profession. We have the military groups. We have the California State Employees Association. In some states, we have AAA. I mean, it's a very,
yeah.
very top-notch rated. I mean, what we do is one of a kind. It's a fantastic opportunity. And you're not going to get a doctor unless you can run an appointment 9 o'clock at night. And that's fine. As long as I know ahead of time, I get it on my calendar. I don't want to work Sundays, but sometimes someone says, hey, I have a Sunday at noon. It's the only time we're both together to make this decision and learn about this. And as long as I know ahead of time, I can block out an hour and a half on a Sunday. I'll give you an example. One company today, when the policy is approved, they send it to you via an email, and the client gets it, and they do a DocuSign, right? That's the new way remotely.
Yeah.
And when they sign it, and a document could be 100 pages, they save it to their computer. Now, when that person has Alzheimer's or a stroke, or they're 84 years old, or I mean, I don't know, who knows what's going on. But
Yeah.
do you think the kids can get into their computer? Do you think the kids know where to look for that policy in that computer? Where did dad save it? What did dad call it? I don't like that. So I tell people, when you sign that, keep it on your computer as a PDF, but it's going to come back to me, and I'm going to print it out, and I'm going to give you some brochures. I'm going to give you some claims information, and I'm going to mail you a hard copy so you can
Wow,
build a file for your family so they know where to go when that time comes and you need help,
that's amazing.
right?
I mean,
And
that's
again, and a good agent won't do that. I mean,
I don't
it's
do
like
it. I need to start doing it. I'm learning
it's
as
like
we're having this interview. I mean, that's
listen,
awesome.
it's 100 pages,
Yeah.
right? It cost me $12 to mail it, but and then I don't give people like one business card. I give them like four business cards. So hopefully the other two or three, maybe they'll hand out if I can help a family member. To be successful, you have to stand out from other agents. So, that's why I'm here. That's why when Genworth kind of got rid of the captive sales operation that they did and just
Yeah.
went with brokers, I could have gone to a lot of different organizations, right? Just like Jacob. Jacob was from Genworth, right? We,
Yeah.
we, we could go in different areas. But the reason I came here and built this was because these people, to me, I'm a stranger to them. They don't know who Jeff Adler is. but they don't think of me as Jeff Adler. I'm the representative for the UCLA Alumni Association, right? I have credibility. So not only do we have endorsed partners that market and advertise for us, right?
Yep.
But with many long term care policies, I can actually offer a UCLA discount that's exclusive to our office that no other broker, financial planner, agent can even offer that discount. We can all offer company A, but
Sure.
nobody else can match my price.
That's
So I'll
awesome.
give you a true story. I'll give you a true
Yeah.
story. I had a gal call me, probably in her 50s, UC Santa Barbara.
Yep.
Her father had passed away, left her an annuity. And of course, annuities, when there are gains on them, they're fully taxable. It's an income tax thing. It's not a stock where it's capital gains. It's full income tax.
Yep.
What she wanted in long term care was going to be a one payment of 125,000, and her dad's annuity was worth about 90,000.
Okay.
So she was about 35,000 short, and she says, I can write a check for 35,000. I don't want any ongoing payments or anything like that. I just want to get it paid off.
So this is
And
a
through
fully paid up policy, long term care policy for people that are listening. Go ahead, Jeff.
Right, right. And with the Pension Protection Act, you can use an annuity and get the money out tax free as long as you're using that money to pay for long term care.
Nice.
Now, she had gone to her regular agent, and the regular agent did a great job, right? He said,
Yep.
"Hey, this is a company that might work. You can use that annuity, and it's 125,000." I said, all of that's perfect. I just got to point out one thing. You came to us from UC Santa Barbara. You get a 5% discount. That's $6,000. So where they're going to charge you 125, I can offer you that policy through the university for 119,000. You're going to save $6,000. And again, I don't want it to be about the other broker not getting commission. I don't want it to be about me. This is all about you. So why would you spend $6,000 more if you don't have to? You're getting the same exact thing. Now, the other difference is, though, is most brokers aren't around when you need care. They're retired themselves, they've moved on to another industry, they've passed away, and your kids don't know that broker because they never dealt with them. And
Yep.
and again, hey, listen, I may not be around either, but you have service through life, service for life through the university. They're all, if you can't find your policy because you relocated, you've packed everything up. I know I have something through UC Santa Barbara, but I can't remember the company or anything. With us, you call UC Santa Barbara alumni. They have all your information. They'll give you our phone numbers right back to our own claims department. You have service for life. There's so many bonuses that we provide through this operation, and that's why it's unique, and that's why we do so much volume.
I mean, it's truly incredible. You know, what you're doing. Um, let's talk briefly about. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know I've talked about it with other agents, but let's
Sure.
talk about the evolution real quick of long-term care, and then of course you offer full financial planning. Like you work with attorneys. Um, you're more than just long-term care. But I want to talk briefly about the evolution, how it went from traditional to asset-based, and then let's talk about all of the services that you provide for your clients from A to Z, and then I really want to drill home on the end too for agents that are looking for a good opportunity, right? To come to work
Yeah.
with somebody and listen, the bottom line is if you want to learn how to become successful, in this field, long-term care, life insurance, it really doesn't matter. I mean, Jeff is a tremendous guy to work for. I mean, honestly, and I can say that. I mean, here I am. I run a tremendous business, and it was all, because I went to work for you at a young age. So anyway, let's go from there.
So let's cover like three little topics. So
Yep.
evolution. So, long-term care traditional type plans, they've been around since 1974. So this is really the 50th anniversary of traditional plans. And traditionals, you look at it kind of like your health insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance. It's there for one purpose. All the companies, remember, I've worked with thousands of people. Just to kind of give you an idea of how many people I've really worked with. During COVID, the last 3 years,
Yep.
I lost about 190 clients. during that COVID 3 year period. Doesn't mean they all passed away from COVID, of course, but I've never lost 300, 200, almost 200 people in a 3 year period, right?
Correct.
So
So you
so
dealt with
that's
a
a lot of,
lot of death claims. I mean, a lot of death claims.
and so did the insurance companies,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
did the insurance companies, right? So
I fielded more
again,
death claims during that time than my whole entire career. Yep.
oh yeah, 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 same thing here, and it was to lose 200 people in 3 years is really kind of devastating too.
Yeah.
So anyhow, the industry's been around a long time. Policies have been improved. The earliest policies, they had hourly limits on how much they would pay out. You had to be hospitalized first, and this and that. Around 1990, 2000, traditional plans again were better. They offered richer benefits. Genworth really had one of the best policies out there. The partnership plans came out. You have to remember, this is the most likely claim and the most expensive claim most people will ever face in their lifetime. And yet, when I started out, we had 9% market penetration.
Yep.
Today, we're about 9 to 10% market penetration. We
Yeah.
can't catch up to the volume and the number of people who don't have this coverage. And
I always
again, they
feel
make
like we're not doing a good job as agents. Like when I hear those stats, do you know what I mean? And then you have families that are devastating. And you used to share this in meetings. And when I was a young man, because when I was working for you, I think I was in my late 20s, early 30s. Now I'm almost 50. But um,
you're a youngster.
yeah, but you used to say, you're like, listen, we're saving lives. Like we're in here, we're saving lives. And I used to think it was, I'm just like, oh, these guys, what. you know. But I mean, the reality is when a long-term care claim hits, and then they have to put, I mean, how many calls, like, and there's nothing more heartbreaking than when you get a call and they're just like, hey, I need some insurance. I got to put mom in a home, right? And they're like, I can't believe the home is going to cost 8 grand a month. You know, and
or more, or even more. And you
correct.
know,
But so my where I was going with this is, like you said, 9%. So, as agents, I feel like we're failing, the public. I mean, you just hit it. You're like, look, 20 years ago it was 9%. Now it's 9%. Like we're not driving that point home to get this coverage for people. I mean, it seems to me like, I don't know.
so many different reasons. So um, education is probably one of the biggest things, right? Kids say, hey, something happens, mom, you can live with us, you can move in with us, right? They don't understand it. It's not just a plate of food on the table. Oh, we're going to have another plate of spaghetti on the table for mom. It's about, I give you an example. I will get a lot of larger people. I had a guy, and he's like 5'11", 270 pounds, and he thinks he's, perfectly healthy and everything. And I'm like, you got to understand one thing here. My dad was only 230 pounds, and when he had, and by the way, my dad, the pharmacist, had dementia at 67. So
Okay.
that's that they had policies. No, my dad retired at 67. He had dementia at 69 years of age. My mom was on her first claim at 67. Both my parents had long-term care claims in their 60s. Thank goodness we had coverage. Remember, dementia is a permanent claim. You're not going to recover from that. The average claim is 8.5 years. My dad was
Well,
5.5 years.
so where are you going?
So,
5'11", 200 and X amount of
okay.
pounds. And then for the people,
So,
so my dad, who was a big guy, he got older, he got frail. So he was 230 before he died. Now, mind you, my dad died probably 3, 4 years ago. And you're talking me, okay, retired bodybuilder. For me to move my dad, I couldn't do it. Like, I
well,
mean,
yeah.
it was
So,
me and my brother. It was two of us to have to pick my dad. I mean, and this is only a
exactly right.
235-pound man. Look, if I can't
So,
do it, so
yeah. Yeah, yeah. The whole story is, look at, you're Mr. Smith. You're 5'11", 240 pounds. You There's a point in time where you need some help getting around. So you're on claim. You got a caregiver, and you have to go to the doctor's office. You pull up in front. They're going to pull the wheelchair out for you. but you can't get out under your own power. I mean, my dad couldn't get out of the car. He was 230 pounds. How do you lift? How does your wife, who's 5'5", your caregiver who's 5'5" or 5'6" or 5'3", how can they lift over 200 pounds of weight from a car getting you into a wheelchair? I mean, you have to understand that it's going to take a special type of caregiver, or you may have to have, I don't know, maybe a big, strong bodybuilder caregiver, or you may have to have a piece of equipment that can help lift you. You're not going to get away for average care. You're not going to hire just the average caregiver. And
Yeah.
with minimum wage, like for instance, not in every state, California, $20 an hour to work at McDonald's, you're not going to get by through a home care agency for less than $30 an hour.
I mean, that
That
could
could be five,
be
six
even,
hundred a day,
yeah,
right? And
exactly.
so the point is, now here's like a little thing. In California, the laws are a little different than other states. You don't have to use a home care agency with a long-term care insurance policy. You can hire independent people, which could be somebody through church, a neighbor, or somebody else that's recommended. But the point is, you're not an average well, first of all, you're not the people I'm working with. I tell them you're not an average person. You don't drive an average car. You don't live in an average house, and you're not going to settle for average care. You
Yeah.
want licensed, trained people, and it's available. It costs more. And why would, and even if you can self insure, even if you have $30 million, why would you want to when you don't have to, right? It's like saying, cancel my health insurance. You're telling me, well, here's the thing that I get into a lot with financial planners. I went to a financial planners meeting, and it was like 70 financial planners, Ruth's Chris, put on by an insurance company, nice steak
And
lunch.
and and for people listening though, you're a financial planner yourself too. I mean,
Right.
obviously.
That's why
Yeah.
I was able to get in there.
Correct. Yeah.
And the topic was long term care. I'm like, well, that company doesn't even sell long term care. Why are they doing this luncheon? And they're in there and they're like, nobody buys long term care insurance. It's too expensive and the rate increases. And I'm mumbling, well, I sold one yesterday and I sold one this morning and I sold one yet. So here's the thing, the insurance company is actually telling these people are not buying long term care insurance, right? So we use other things like income riders and annuities and different things like that, and then they start throwing out things like chronic illness, and they're saying, oh yeah, it's long-term care. I'm like, wow, your brochure says chronic illness. You're actually teaching malpractice here. You're telling these agents this is long-term care. Washington state has a law. If you don't own a long-term care policy, your employer takes money out of your paycheck.
Mhm.
It's mandatory in Washington. If they own a chronic illness policy because their financial planner said
It doesn't
this
mean.
will make you exempt, that's
Yep.
malpractice. So guess what? I will tell you, like I said earlier, we work
So
with
so
engineers.
real quick, Jeff, let's
Yeah,
explain the
yeah.
difference for people that are listening between chronic illness and long term care. I think that's a good, it's good for people
Well,
to know the difference.
different companies do it different ways. The insurance companies, first of all, as an agent, you don't have to be licensed in long-term care. You don't have to do the 8 hours of CE. You don't have to go through long-term care, requirements with the state, right? Because it's
Yep.
chronic illness.
Correct.
So most chronic illness policies require, well, it'll look and feel a little bit like long-term care, but most of the policies out there, it's a permanent condition, right? If you have something that you can probably not recover from, it's expected you're going to need help at least 90
So
days
it's
on
two out
a.
of six activities of daily living with the assumption that you will not get better, right? That last component is what kind of defines chronic illness. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's not 100% like that with every company,
Correct.
okay?
So some
But
companies, just
but
so
most
the
of
people that are listening, some companies, and I can speak from experience with this, their long-term care rider mirrors their chronic illness rider. So it's the exact same thing. That's not the case with all companies, but some companies they mirror it. Other companies it has that other caveat where hey, the assumption of not getting better.
Right. I'll give you an idea. My mother wound up in 20 years having four separate claims, right? Not all claims are permanent. People always say, so you mean if I'm in the hospital and this and that? And I like, listen, yeah, you can be in the
So if you
hospital.
had a
Hey,
chronic illness rider, she wouldn't. If she just had chronic illness in this
she
example,
wouldn't have been paid on her
wouldn't be able
claims,
to get
except
paid.
the last one. The last one was permanent.
Correct.
My oldest client's 103. She still smokes, she still drinks, and
Isn't
her
that
only
crazy?
problem is macular degeneration.
Yeah, so she's
She's
going.
legally
Yeah.
legally blind, but she feels great, you know. So you never know. My youngest clean, by the way, is only 49 years old. So imagine 49 years old going through long-term care. Bought it young to lock in her age, and
Yeah.
about 3 years later has a physical, and they find stage 4 cancer.
So
Surgery, chemo, radiation. So the point is, and the point I was going to make real quickly here is
yeah.
everybody I'm dealing with in long-term care from these groups, they're all highly educated. They're doctors, lawyers, engineers, professional people. And guess what? They all have a financial planner. And yet
So
they're
so
not buying the long-term care through the financial planner.
um so we don't have a ton of time left, but this meeting's all about you, and I want it to go wherever you want it to go. But when you mention financial planners, I mean, you handle all kinds of financial planning. I know we've worked together on some cases with some high level attorneys, right? Certain benefits and things of that nature. So real quick, I mean, you handle everything from A to Z. I realize that you're a specialist in long term care, but for example, let's just say, okay, I'm 55 years old and now I'm ready to retire, right? Hey, Jeff, I got 5 million bucks. Boom, set me up, right? You can handle that, no problem.
Yeah, yeah, and it's about asking questions, and it's really about the client. What are their goals? What are their needs? There's so many complicated things in here, like for instance, divorces, special needs children, trying to help the parents because they may not have long term care. One saying is, like a funeral. By the way, we'll bring people together. You celebrate a life. Take that same family when mom and dad need long term care, and no one's going to agree on how to pay for long term care. Does mom pay 15,000 a month at home, or does she go in assisted living for half the price? Those long term care can break families apart, and those relationships sometimes will never be fixed or really it's permanent problems because nobody can agree where mom should need long-term care. Should we spend her money? Should we protect her money because we're not going to inherit anything? What I wanted to tell you is, though, there's a lot of things that come up over time. um, Long-term care can solve a lot of different things, right? Because you can use
And
IRAs to pay for long-term care policies,
so,
right?
and here's the other thing too, in our culture. So, for example, that community that was built in Oxnard, that big community there, when I left, a long time ago, they were doing all those track homes, and
Right, 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 right,
they had granny flats. And if for
right.
people listening that don't know what a granny flat is, so there's the main house, there's a garage, and then above the garage is a little apartment. Okay, and um, because I remember my wife and I were looking at these properties, and I'm like, well, what is this? And so in certain cultures, like the Mexican community, they all move mom in, right? And that's what that whole granny
Family,
flat is for.
fam, family takes care of family.
Family takes care of family. But in America, that's not us. I mean, we don't like. I didn't even know what a granny flat was until I saw these houses being built. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
not in our culture. We don't technically move mom in like in the Asian culture, the Mexican culture, and everything else. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and nowadays, you could even use them as Airbnbs and other things too. It's part of the building code down in San Diego. You have to have so many units for affordable housing and some other things, and that's how they're getting around it. I have places behind me here in my complex where I live, and the last phase of the homes when they built them had like little granny shacks. But just here's what I find, and your background's really life insurance.
Yeah.
uh, big background. And man, older policies, they always need to be looked at. There are so many problems with older policies. And I do a lot of volunteer work. I do a lot of things where I'm not really going to sell anything and I'm not going to get paid anything, but I'm trying to help people.
Yeah.
And I just
So
talked to an older
listen, for the
gentleman.
guys, for the
Yeah,
people listening, Jeff Adler doesn't need any money. Okay. So Jeff Adler's out here
I
doing.
have expenses too, right?
Well, you do, but I mean, the bottom line is you're really out helping people. And when he's talking about the older policies, and the only reason why I'm jumping in here is because we're running out of time, but he's talking about old contracts that were like nursing home specific policies. They didn't have these benefits, or they weren't all inclusive benefits, But Jeff, with the time that we have left, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the opportunity, right? And I want to, and this is a passion of mine. Let's talk about the opportunity. Maybe you can talk to the agent that's struggling. Maybe he's a life agent that's struggling, or he's or he's a health agent, or he's an annuity guy. Let's talk about the opportunity, right, for the agent that wants to come to work for you. Is that a good place?
Yeah.
Is that a good
So
this
yeah, listen, we're not an FMO. We're not out there recruiting 1,000 agents and all that kind of stuff. We're
FMO for people listening? Field marketing organization. Go ahead.
Yeah, IMOs, FMOs. Let's go out and hire 1,000 people, and then guess what? You never hear from them again. Once you get contracted, they want to get paid. They get an override, but they're going to do very little for you. I don't, that's not us, right? We're like a family of agents. We do trainings every week. So here's the difference in long-term care, right? Companies will always show you options and features, but that doesn't sell long-term care because long-term care is not an automatic insurance. People have to understand it's a personal insurance. It takes a personal approach. It's never going to be sold on the internet. It won't be successful that way like other insurances that you're
So it's
dealing
not
with.
commoditized. It's not commoditized like term insurance, which is totally
No,
commoditized, and it
no.
will not be commoditized.
Right. So what we do is a lot different. What we do is we teach you how to sell long-term care. We have a 30, 40-year track record of sitting down with the client, educating them, and we take a very soft approach. I don't think we're salespeople. We're going to offer information. We're going to guide people, answer their questions. They're going to have to decide if it's appropriate for them or not. Now, the other
So
part of the, yeah,
so
go
real
ahead.
quick, if I'm a new agent coming in, okay, and I'm looking for an opportunity, and I sign on with your agency, I mean, how long would you say it takes for you to train? So like what Jeff was saying, he's not just getting an override, away you go. You're actually going to bring an agent in, and I can speak from experience because I was taught this way. You're going to train them, you're going to teach them, right? And you really care. You really care about the people that are working for you. I mean, genuinely
Oh,
you do. Like when
yeah.
when your people come up and they post big numbers, you're excited about that for
Oh,
the
yeah.
people you've helped.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's
yeah.
talk about
And
that
no,
a little
no,
bit.
and no, right. And just to give you an idea, there's some agents. I mean, literally, we talk 3, 4 times a day, right? Because they're working hard. They're talking to people. They've got a medical thing here. They got a family thing here.
Yeah.
We
So,
need
and then
some
for the
guidance.
people listening, if I have a complicated health case and I need to figure out where I can place this case, I'll literally pick up the phone and give you a call. I mean,
Yeah, I have access to management. I have companies in the long-term care world that they've given me my own dedicated medical underwriter. The same person handles every one of my cases.
you know,
And a lot of times when I'm working with people, they've been turned down elsewhere, and somehow they got my name from somebody. And even though I can't promise 100% of the time, it's very likely I'll be able to get them something.
so for the
Um,
agents that are listening,
yeah,
think about this.
yeah.
Think if you were working on a team with somebody like yourself that can get things done that nobody else can. So let's just think about it. Let's just say it's one case a year, right? I mean, think about the I mean, and it's not one case a year. Let's be honest. It's going to be one case a quarter that gets placed that wouldn't be able to be placed if they weren't working with you. I mean,
It can be more than that because
it
we
can,
do a pretty high volume. But listen, there's different ways to play the game. So we're able to work with people in 3 different ways, right? We have, if you're a PNC agent, I mean, homeowners auto. I know you guys are going through it. It's brutal out there, and people are looking like, hey, I'm going to have to start selling outside California because we can't sell any property casualty inside California.
yeah.
We have people that want to bring it into their operation, and we'll kind of be like their back office. We'll help them with the underwriting, give them supplies, we'll quote numbers. I can even pop on a 3-way call. Just call me a medical underwriter or a product specialist or something like that,
So
and
so
that's
Jeff,
fine.
we're
Yeah.
we're running out of time here, but I want to so two things. Number one, what's the best way for a potential client to get a hold of you? And then number two, what is the best way for an agent that's looking for a wonderful opportunity? How do they get in touch with you? Of course, I'm going to post everything up as we go, but Can you share that?
Yeah, post my contact information. My cell phone is area code 805-857-3970. I will pick up 7 days a week. If I miss you, don't worry, I'll definitely get back to you. And you don't have to be a full time and give up other things you have. If you have something else going on, you want to add long term care, we have a program for that. If you want to split cases, like I don't even want to do it, we can split cases and we do all the work. And then we have the full time operation, and it's a dedicated, structured, very structured, lots of training, always ongoing training, resources. Of course, we have the endorsements, we have the lead flow, and every agent has a different potential. I can't tell you who's successful, who's not. A lot of that is up to the agent and how they run their business, and we can
So
talk more about
correct. And but the bottom line is if somebody is really they want to learn, okay, even if they're brand new, for example, they come in, you put them through training. I mean, the bottom line is if they listen to what you say, you teach them how to do it, they're going to be a success, right? I
that.
mean,
They'll have all the tools. They'll have all the tools, right?
correct.
And I can do a whole little 15-minute thing on it another time for you. But the opportunity's never been better than it is today. And instead of joining 8 different networking groups and having lunch out and trying to look for that next client, we have the ability to provide people looking for long-term care insurance to reach out to us, and they'll be reaching out to you.
So, and that's an amazing opportunity. So, for the people listening and agents that are listening, I mean, they literally have people reaching out to them on a daily basis. So, instead of trying to figure out how to market, you reach out to Jeff, you go through Jeff's training, and next thing you know, you got people to talk to, which is a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate that.
Jeff, this has been awesome. This has been awesome, and I have a few of these interviews under my belt now, and I didn't want to reach out to you first because I'm new to this whole game, and I've been a little nervous about doing this, but I truly appreciate this, and I think it's gonna be valuable for agents and clients and people. The bottom line, but um, I just want to say
I appreciate the time.
I appreciate your time, and I thank you so very much, Jeff. And it's been awesome. And hey, we'll be in touch. Any closing remarks?
No, listen, there's a lot of people looking for careers. Insurance is the right one to be in. And if you can make it work and you're coachable, you have to be coachable. You have to be able to learn and understand what someone's teaching you to do. And then, a lot of it is, self-motivated and where you can take it. It's like owning your own business. So you're in charge of your destiny.
And then, so one last quick tidbit for the person that's thinking about coming into this business. The beautiful part about the insurance business is, there's a lot of mortgage guys that are struggling. There's a lot of realtors that are struggling, right? And the reality is, those people are out of business after every sale. So for somebody like you, okay, who has built up a book of business over the years, is it fair to say that if you didn't sell another policy moving forward, you'd still have plenty of money coming in every week? Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. And understand in
So it's
this
called
industry,
residual income. So for the people that are listening, residual income, if you're not in the residual income game, I mean, let's be honest. Would you trade? Who's going to trade? Who's going to trade that? And long-term care as a whole probably has some of the best residual income there is out there.
long-term care, because again, rates typically don't go up. People don't change every couple of years. When they have it, they could be 60 years old and you'll see residual income for the next 20 years.
That's awesome. Well,